Welcome back to the Clemson Insider as we continue our Clemson Finest series with longtime sports information director Tim Bourrt. And Tim, you saw a lot of things in your 40 years at Clemson, and you still are technically. As you mentioned, that you saw the golf team win the national championship in 2003, and you talked about your relationship with Coach Penley, Bill Wilhelm. You worked with him. You worked with obviously with Coach Leggett, and you worked with Barnes and Foster and those guys, and then Coach Danny Ford in football. But then the guy who probably is maybe outside of Frank Howard, is the biggest character in Clemson history would be Dabo Swinney. Am I correct? Is there some comparison between Dabo and Coach Howard?
Character probably is a little bit of a different terminology that I would use. Coach Howard is in his own level as far as that was concerned. But no, Coach Swinney, of course, was a dream for me to work with and to see what he has done with this program, especially the last 4 years. But I do remember when he came to Clemson in 2003, and Terry Don Phillips has said this also when people do stories on Dabo, is that there was something about him with the players. They would just seem to gravitate towards him, even the ones he didn't recruit, even for just about when he first got here. And of course, when that went on into the recruiting aspect of it as he was here longer and longer. And I do remember when he took over the job, I did a little research, and 38 of the 85 guys on scholarship he had signed.
That's amazing.
When he took over the job. So it just shows you the impact that he had on the program. But I was always, when he became head coach, and I worked with him as a head coach, he had a sixth sense about every aspect of the program, whether it be discipline, dealing with the media, and the X's and O's, every aspect of the game. He seemed to have a sixth sense about it. And it occurred to me that he really did have a terrific educational experience from a football standpoint at Alabama, and working under Gene Stallings. And he knew how to do things the right way, knew how to treat people, and I think he learned a lot from Coach Stallings.
Dabo, for those people who don't know, Dabo's a very organized person. Everything from with us with the media to practice to everything he's got organized and has it a year in advance. A lot of people don't realize Dabo sits down like sometime around this year, like before I think summer camp start, right? And fills out his entire schedule for the whole year. That includes us, right?
Right.
And it's just amazing how organized he is and how he sticks to it. Am I correct?
Yeah, well, I first got the sense of that when Terry Don Phillips was considering hiring him for the job, permanently. So on October the 13th, 2008, Dabo became the interim coach. But between then and the end of the season, Dabo put together this giant notebook of all aspects of the program, all neatly typed up and organized as to, what his model for the program is. And he gave it to Terry Don. And when he was Terry Don showed it to me. And it just had, every aspect of a football program. And it just, things that he thought of that I can't believe some guys who were head coaches would have some kind of presentation for that. And so I do. There were two things that really contributed to Dabo getting the job and impressing Terry Don. I think one was that notebook, and the other thing was Dabo's work across campus with the academic committees and the special admits. And he would go to those meetings with the president and the athletic director and the faculty reps or whatever, and just the professional attitude that he treated everyone in those meetings, I think had a big impact on him getting the job too.
When he was going through that interim basis at that point, after Coach Bowden stepped down, were you kind of rooting for him just to be the guy? I mean, I know you got to do your job regardless who the guy is.
Right.
But were you kind of rooting for Dabo because not only, you kind of knew him already a little bit as a wide receivers coach and who he was, but to see, what he maybe can do? I mean, what was
Well,
your...
yeah, I having worked with him for 5 years as a receiver coach and having a sense, just as his abilities to know everything about the program, I thought he'd be a good person. And for me personally, it would be good to have somebody that I know instead of some coach I have to, totally get to know all over again and know what his policies are or whatever. So, and I knew, the Dabo did take the media seriously and what their impact can have on your program. So, I was rooting for him. And I will add to this, one thing I always learned from Mr. Bradley and Mr. Valdesari at Notre Dame is that you do everything you can to promote and help the coach who is there now. So when Dabo became the coach, I was going to help him in everything that I could, because he's your coach until he's not your coach.
Right.
And so that was kind of a general attitude I followed anyway.
Through the years, early years, that's, and really when we look at retrospect, just that 1 year, because that first season he exceeded expectations, and they go to the ACC championship game and we're one stop away, actually one great play from winning that game, and then 2010 happens. Was there ever any doubt in your mind, though, even in that 2010 season, that this is just a little hiccup, that you think he's going to really kind of get this program going? Maybe not to what we see it doing now, but
yeah, it would be hard to think that it would get to where it is to now with a 55-4 record over the last four years. But obviously we had a losing season and we lost so many close games, and so but seeing that at the end of that season, when Dabo said he was more confident in what they could accomplish than he had been before, and Terry Don coming in after the South Carolina game and told him he was his guy, 100%, and that Terry Don believed in him, then those are two guys who've been around the game quite a bit, so it gave me me confidence, and I knew we had recruited well, and but I also saw the basic leadership and culture. He talks about the culture of the program after we lost the South Florida game at the end of the 2010 season, and it was a 5th or 6th loss by a touchdown or less or whatever. But seeing the seniors go around the locker room after that game and basically give an encouragement to the younger guys that okay, you guys can do something. We had a tough season, but they're just very kind of positive. The guy stood out in my mind about that was DeAndre McDaniel, how he went around that locker room after the game, and that just told me all I needed to know about the culture of the program. There weren't people just sitting about the locker just moping or throwing things or I'm glad that season's over. That was not the attitude in the locker room after the game.
Yeah, and DMAC probably is a big reason why he's on staff now with Coach Sweeney as an analyst, and he's been on there ever since he was a GA.
Right.
DMAC's a great guy, DeAndre McDaniel. Everybody knows him for the great play he did against Christian Ponder, but as a person,
sure,
he's one of the better people you're going to meet.
Yeah,
there's no doubt. One of my favorite players to cover, no doubt. And then 2011 comes along, and so it begins. When you look back at that first year and knowing what you know now, can you just imagine, I know, in none of our wildest dreams did we ever think that first year, that first ACC championship, would begin the run that's unprecedented in Clemson football history.
Right. One thing though, when I always reflect on that 2011 season, and I think people say to Terry Don, he says, well, you gave that new contract to Coach Bowden, and then halfway to the next season, he's not your coach anymore. But people forget that in 2008, when the decision had to be made as to whether or not we're going to let Coach Bowden go to Arkansas or whether he was going to going to stay was the recruiting that had been done. You know, in 2008, still the highest rated class in Clemson history was Coach Bowden's last recruiting class in 2008. And you look at the guys in that class like Andre Ellington and Kyle Parker and Dwayne Allen, Daquan Bowers, all those guys. You know, if Coach had left, we could have lost a lot of those guys. I think that was, and all those guys were seniors or juniors, but impact players on that 2011 team. And so I kind of go back to that decision by Terry Don to do that with the new contract has had such a positive impact on the start of the run that we're on now. And that was not quite as important as the decision to hire Dabo full time, but it's probably the second highest, most important decision. But it's obviously had led to what's now an 8-year run of double-digit win seasons.
To kind of put a little perspective on this run that they're on, you were around Notre Dame football growing up your whole life. This is nothing that really Notre Dame's ever done, am I right? To go 55-4,
right?
You know, play for national championships the way Clemson has 3 of the last 4 years, to win 2, but not just that, but then the consistent winning even before this 55-4.
Right. Oh yeah, because you got to give Taj Bourrt a lot of credit, and the guys who played with him in 11, 12, and 13. And 14 was kind of a bridge season, but still a really good season. But when I was at Notre Dame in the 1970s, and even on a winning percentage basis, what Clemson has done, especially recently, has exceeded that. So in this decade, as a matter of fact, when we beat Alabama, Clemson's record in this decade has matched what Notre Dame did in the 70s, which is just saying something, because I was there for 2 national championships in the 70s at Notre Dame before I came to Clemson.
Boys, we wrap this up. You talked about how Coach Foster was your favorite coach for basketball, and it goes without saying, and not because of the winning, without saying that Dabo Swinney's without a doubt the favorite for football. Are those two guys kind of equal to you? I know you don't want to say one's better than the other because you love Coach Foster and you love Coach Swinney.
Yeah, it was such a different, Coach Foster, I was 22 years old when I came here. And so, there was a big difference in our ages, and he kind of took me into the wing. So a little bit different with Dabo, in that I'd already been here a long time. But just the level of respect that Dabo showed me, when he retired and he got me that golf cart and had a nice party for me, and I just came from the Sports Information Convention, and I could tell that I have a good level of respect, but I think a lot of it is because of the way Coach Swinney has treated me, and hopefully the way I treated him. So I think he's had a terrific impact on my career.
And first of all, we want to say thanks for coming in, and also congratulations on your Lifetime Achievement Award. That's awesome for you to receive that from your peers. You're a Hall of Famer, so you're actually the 3rd Hall of Famer we've had in here.
Yeah, Joe Sherman and Bob Bradley, and we could have done a whole nother segment on Mr. Bradley. Maybe we'll save that for another day. But yeah, he certainly was a terrific boss, and I was very fortunate to I never really met Joe Sherman, but he was earlier than Mr. Bradley, and he's in the Hall of Fame too.
Exactly. And well, Tim, thanks so much. Congratulations.
Enjoyed
on
it. Thank you.
Accomplishments and all. And everybody, thanks for joining us as we've wrapped up our series here with Tim Bourrt. Please join us for more Clemson Finest series on TCI.